harm, but we were really concerned that the company, if they had ever found out during the 3.5 years, the FBI told us they would kill Mark if they had ever found out that he was taping them.
When you see in the movies how these companies are threatening and taking people out, I mean, you think it's theatrics, right? But this is actually a real issue. I mean, they do that, right? These big companies could do that.
Oh, yeah, the FBI was very clear, very clear. They're like, hey, if they ever find one of these devices on you or find out, they have no worries to down a plane, a car, whatever happens, that they're so it kept telling us, to think in your mind, he may not come home today. And how am I going to explain that to our children? That weighs on, and you have no one to rely on, to just say, oh, please, even if I could have just even told my pastor, in confidence. But that would have been a huge burden on him as well.
Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
Hey, Thriving in Tandem family, welcome back.
Hi, you guys.
Honey, we got a show today.
I can hardly wait.
And this is why you need to stay and listen. Because if you've ever, well, let me put this way. I don't know if you've seen the movie Informant. Years ago, there's a movie that came out with Matt Damon was it was basically about the largest whistleblower case for the largest price fixing case in the United States history. We're talking millions, if not billions of dollars, multiple businesses involved. And the central figure, Matt Damon, well, he played this guy named Mark Whitacre. 3 years undercover, married, 3 kids, and the whole deal. Ended up spending up to 10 years in jail. And through it all, his marriage stayed intact. His wife, Ginger, stayed married to him, followed him around. Whenever they changed prisons from state to state, she's picking up the family and moving, seeing him every weekend with the kids in tow, being the first in line at probably 5 a.m. in the morning or something like that, and persevering. And they're still married to this day. And so we have the real life Mark and Ginger Whitacre with us today, honey. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be fabulous.
So Mark and Ginger, welcome to the show. We got some questions for you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just not even hitting the tip of the iceberg here. And, that whole undercover issue, I mean, 3 years, and it's dangerous. I mean, they did talk about, FBI did warn you. I mean, death is a real threat. And going through that, and I mean, it's one thing for Mark to go through that, but I mean, Ginger, I'm assuming that all that stress and pressure, not the marriage, but also the family, and then going to jail, for 10 years and all that. My question,
it was 8 years. It was 8 years.
Okay. Probably felt like 10. But I got my first question, Ginger, to you is, what was worse? Those 3 years of him undercover or the 8 years in jail?
Oh, 3 years undercover for sure. I was not able to tell. It was only Mark and I were the only ones that knew. We're not allowed to talk to our parents, our siblings, our pastor, no one. So that was so much harder because there was no one to share it with, so you could ask for prayer. No one to rally around you in prayer for protection over Mark. So in prison, I knew where he was. I didn't have to so much worry about him being harmed, but we were really concerned that the company, if they had ever found out during the 3.5 years, the FBI told us they would kill Mark if they had ever found out that he was taping them.
Wow. So those things are real. Like when you see in the movies how these companies are threatening and taking people out, I mean, you think it's theatrics, right? But this is actually a real issue. I mean, they do that, right? These big companies could do that.
Oh, yeah, the FBI was very clear, very clear. They're like, hey, if they ever find one of these devices on you or find out, they have no worries to down a plane, a car, whatever happens, so it kept telling us, to think in your mind, he may not come home today. And how am I going to explain that to our children? For 3 years, that weighs on, and you have no one to rely on, to just say, oh, please, even if I could have just even told my pastor, in confidence. But that would have been a huge burden on him as well.
Wow. So how did you deal with that?
I was a young Christian at that stage. I'd only been a Christian for probably 2 or 3 years. And I just prayed. I mean, I just prayed and prayed. That's all I did pretty much. My kids, when they went off, when we took them to school, then the rest of the day, I just, praying that he would come home safely. That's pretty much how I got through it, and read a lot of the Bible during that time. And then every time when he'd come home, I'd be like, thank you for that day, but then starts all over again the next morning, which was really hard. And it just really wears on you emotionally and mentally. You just really
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
So I'm curious, Ginger, did you ever have a thought in your mind like, this is too much, I can't handle this, I want to get out?
Not during the undercover years. During the prison years, once they get out, it's just I got so overwhelmed. I'd been a stay-at-home mom. Mark goes to prison. I went back to school at 39, finished my degree at 40 to become an elementary school teacher with a minor in psychology. So I was going back in the workforce at 40, visiting Mark on the weekends. I still have, two boys living at home. Our daughter was in college. It was more, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't think I can do it. It wasn't about leaving. It's how am I going to physically and mentally do this, take care of doing my job during the day, taking care of the boys and seeing Mark. It just, how do you just juggle it all? But not thought of leaving because we'd been married over almost 20 years by the time that he went to prison. We had 3 children together. It wasn't like we were just newly married.
And we met in junior high, 7th and 8th grade, we met.
Yeah, I saw the prom pictures in the book.
I think a lot of women would be like, oh my gosh, my husband's going to jail. Doing this whole undercover. It's so stressful. It's like, I don't know how much more I can go through this. and then and then you go back to school, you're working, you go back to school to get your degree and you're raising these kids. That's a lot.
It is. And it's only by God's grace to have the strength to do it. I told him, if you get in trouble anymore, I can't deal with you. I'm too old. I'm too tired. I'm not going to be able to handle visiting you. I've already done it. That's what a 40-year-old can do. I'm 67. I can't handle that. But God gives you the strength you need. During that time, God was so good. He placed me in schools around with Christian colleagues that didn't even know my story, but there's just having Christian colleagues to teach with. And he always helped us find a home where we were relocating to. He just protected us. And so I'm grateful for that. I can look back and go, that was so much easier than people going to St. Jude's and visiting their children, worrying about fighting cancer or if their children has been abducted. Those are things that are struggles and hard to deal with. This was a cakewalk compared to what some people are facing.
Yeah, because it's funny. It's like, I don't have to worry about Mark. He's in jail. I know where he is.
I know where to find him.
He ain't going anywhere, at least for 8 years.
I was hoping nobody could get to him, okay,
Yeah.
he's in a prison. Yeah.
Right. I was going to
Then the
say,
company
because
came for a whistleblower reward too, finally. I don't know if you know that. The first day of the 7-week trial in Chicago, where almost 30 people went to prison, 4 from ADM, but then all the other companies too, executives, they gave Ginger, the prosecutor made a comment that the case would have never happened without Ginger Whitacre. She forced her husband to literally turn the price fixing in, and he would have never done it. So those companies that were the victims, including Coca-Cola, Tyson Foods, Purdue Farms, and one's buying Kellogg's, Kraft, the one's buying Food Additives. And at the end of it, when they won hundreds of millions of dollars back in class action suits, Coca-Cola alone had the largest. They won 400 million back in a class action suit. They gave Ginger, they got together, those companies, and gave her a whistleblower award and said, we want to finance you while your husband's in prison.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is,
God bless him.
only God can do it. And God did it in such a way that first I thought it was a trick of ADM. I really thought, because I got this letter saying they're going to set up this trust fund for the kids. And I was like, oh, this sounds kind of, they're going to try to trip me up and do something.
Yeah.
Turned out it was legitimate, but they didn't give it all at one time. This is how God was handling it, because he knew if we get a bunch of money, sometimes like someone winning the lottery, he would only deposit a certain amount. When they won one case, they would put in a percentage into this trust fund, which helped pay for our daughters and sons' college and helped pay some of our rent. It was never an excessive amount that you would spend wild and free, but it was enough to take you till the next. But you didn't know when the next case was going to be finished up and there might be the next deposit. So you had to still live frugally, because that might be the last deposit you get. You didn't know in advance. So I always attribute that to God's grace, that he's just, you're going to have enough what you need. Not more than you need. You're going to have enough what you need. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that, because I probably would have, stopped teaching and tried to do something else and, just been silly. So I'm grateful for God's just his monitoring of the money.
Wow, it's amazing. So Mark, I mean, this is going to speak to character and integrity. When you're at the company at ADM, they're moving you up the corporate ladder. You're getting more and more involved with the inside of what's going on and the price fixing. You're starting to become aware. And then all of a sudden you have this decision to make you know, the FBI, do I help the FBI become an informant or do I keep doing what I'm doing? You're getting a lot of money, right? There's a golden parachute. I mean, Kaylee and I had a discussion. How could somebody, do that? Not want to be the whistleblower. And I said, well, there's the golden parachute or the golden
Yeah.
handcuffs of all this money and wealth and stuff like that. So what were I'm sure there's, I mean, obviously I know the book, but I mean, your story, but the tension that was going on there of that decision points you have to make, whether you become a
Well, I
whistleblower
wasn't
or
a
not.
Christian then. I became a Christian in prison. So I wasn't a Christian then. So I was definitely addicted to that lifestyle of 8 years in that role. I had a corporate jet, 7 top executives, each had their own Falcon 50. I was number 4, ranked executive divisional president of really the most profitable division and corporate vice president of the company. We had a 75-year-old CEO, 71-year-old COO, and I was 32. So, and I was number 4. And they were really grooming me for that role. And that's what really kept driving me, that they already announced, and it was on tape many times, that Mark, we're grooming you. You're a year or 2 away from being the next COO when the COO retires. And 8 or 10 years from now, I was only 32, 8 or 10 years
Wow.
from now, you could be the next CEO of the
Right.
56th largest company on the Fortune 500, a $70 billion company. So that's what kept driving me.
And they knew
Wow.
that for him, it wasn't drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Mark, it was basically greed. The more that they gave, okay, we'll give you this bonus this month, and then they'll give you something better the next month. So it just kept you constantly tied to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is they probably know who to groom. It's not
Yes.
just so much of the skill set, but it's how much can they
Yeah.
trust you for some of the stuff that you probably shouldn't know, right? And so that
Yes.
I imagine they could almost like not really call it personality tests, but they can almost kind of scope you out. That hey,
Yeah,
this is the
you
guy.
2 years, I was like 2 years before they shared anything. I think they're sizing you up, and then after 2 years, they say, "We can bring him into the family."
Yeah.
Well, they
So
were grooming you, like you said.
Yes, yes, and it
so
was
what
like,
was so how did you because you're addicted to the wealth and all the
The
stuff.
power.
So how did you come to that decision to say, okay, I'm gonna give it all up and become a whistleblower?
well, I can tell you one thing, I fought tooth and nail to be a whistleblower. Even when Ginger and I had that first meeting with him, I mean, I was fighting tooth and nail. Without Ginger really pushing it, I would have never been a whistle. I would have sided with ADM, went against the FBI. I mean, it was like crack. I was addicted to that lifestyle. And show me your mentor, I show you your future. I mean, I was being groomed by this 75-year-old CEO and the 71-year-old COO. And I mean, I was all in. The whistleblower, I don't know if you ever, the FBI was so upset with the movie accuracy, they did a documentary to combat the movie. And that's on our website, markwhitaker.com. And people watch that. The 3 real FBI agents and Ginger and I on there in the movie, and they say, wow, it's 2 different stories. And in that documentary, they talk about how every week I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, I fought it tooth and nail.
But the
Yeah.
alternative was that, okay, you're the one going to jail for what everybody else did.
Yes.
Hmm.
So to me, that would be the first thing that just pushes me on to make sure I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But for Mark, it was still so much. He was still so addicted to all the toys, the planes, the cars, the money, the stock. So it was a really hard struggle for him.
Yeah.
So looking back, would you guys do the whistleblower again?
I want to say I would, but some of the things that the effects, the fallout from it for our children, I think, and for our family, I think our extended family, it makes it a little hard. But then I look, well, God protected all of us. And
Became a Christian.
yeah, Mark became a Christian during this thing. He would not have if he had stayed at ADM. I don't believe we'd be sitting here today if he had stayed with ADM because he was really running with the wrong crowd. They'd been married multiple times, most of the people above him. They had mistresses. It just was bad corporate setting for him. So I don't believe we would have stayed together. I was on a different path with being a new Christian. I was, all in love with Jesus, and I that's where the path I wanted to go. And he was all in love with his cars.
Yeah. So Mark, how would you characterize yourself before jail and then after jail?
I would say before jail that, and it's an example, show me your mentor, I show you your future. I had mentors that all went to jail, the top executives of ADM. And I would say that I would do anything I could. I defined the world and success based on how much money you have, how big a home you have, how large the company is, and everything was based on compensation, materialism, titles. And I would say when I went to prison at $20 a month for 8 years on a 10-year sentence, did 8 years on a 10-year sentence, then it was more a life of significance that I helped guys get their GEDs. I helped Spanish guys speak better English. And I thought, I couldn't wake up after I became a believer my first year. Colson's one led me to He was
I
like
saw that.
a father to me. I couldn't wait to wake up and see what God had in store because I never experienced servant leadership. So I went to prison. And well, I would say that's the difference, that I was more defining success on titles and income. And then when I became a believer at age 40, that it was more a life of significance. How can you make the world a better place when you leave it than when you came? That would be the biggest
Yeah.
difference, I would say, that God
That's
did in my life. And I think that's what saved our marriage when she saw that change.
that's good. That's amazing because, yeah, I mean, just even the premise of the show is we're speaking to married business owners that are just grinding it out, hustling, grinding for success. But the folks that listen to us and the clients that we have know that there's got to be more. But how do we make sure we're taking care of our marriage as we're still achieving? And so, as you're saying, we're kind of grown up in a culture that really measures us by our worldly success, the money, the position, the business, and all that. And we lose focus on what matters most. And you're on the verge of that. So I was imagine, Ginger, back to you, Ginger, as you see that transition in Mark as he's in jail, was that kind of thing that gave you the continued hope that, hey, we can stay with this marriage?
Well, one, with him becoming a Christian, I'd been praying for like 10 years for him to find Jesus. I'd been waiting for somebody else to kind of can talk to him. I had
Yeah,
tried, and
sure.
sometimes it takes somebody and not a family member
Mhm.
to lead someone to the Lord. So definitely gave me more hope. He took responsibility for his actions after becoming a Christian, and just seeing the way that he approached the time that he had left, it wasn't anymore like, oh, I'm counting every day till I get out. It's like, what can I do while I'm here? How
Mm,
can I be
got
productive for the Lord while I'm here? And that was a huge boost. And just knowing that, okay, that's the guy I know, not the guy that had worked previously for ADM. Somewhere, the good guy had got lost in all the people that he had been around. And I knew he was still in there, but now I was getting to see him again. And so that made it easier. Not that it's easy for to be in prison. There's no easy way about it, but especially for 8 years, but it just make it easier that he was falling in love with Jesus and studying and learning and being good to people. Not it wasn't
yeah,
about anymore. It was
yeah.
about
Yeah. So now that Mark's been out of jail for a while and he's got a great job now at Coca-Cola Consolidated, but it seems like you don't see him anymore.
why why
It's
he still
kinda
travel.
yeah, it's kinda funny. So now he's traveling for work all the time. Before he was in jail, you see him on weekends. Now he's out and free.
Ginger
He's
refers to it a greed addiction to a Jesus addiction. She said, if I was going to be addiction, I want it to be Jesus.
Yeah, it's ministry addiction, that's for sure.
So how do you keep your marriage intact and strong, as
Well, we
you're obviously
try to
distanced?
travel when we can together, when
Mhm.
if he's traveling somewhere. Coca-Cola Consolidated is very good to help us, for me to go with him. But it's also try to make those kind of plans. And if we're going someplace and it's a warmer place when we lived in the cold, I just try to be there with him. And then we just try to enjoy the weekends that we have home. He gets very blessed to get to meet some amazing people during the week at the plants and then on the planes and just all kinds of different contacts. So he's doing God's work. So I can't really kind of say anything bad about it. But I do miss him at times. And then there's times I'm like, wow, you've been home like 5 days. I think it's don't you have somewhere to go next
When's your
week? And
when's your next
Airport's
flight?
back open. Airport's back open.
yeah, I'll go out and shovel off the driveway so you can get to the airport. But
Ginger.
I think that's part of any marriage. We've been married 47 years or almost 47 years. And that's just kind of part of it. You have to find a good balance, what works for you.
Yeah.
And for us, it's just traveling sometimes. Works good for us.
And we
Yeah,
enjoy when she travels with me.
Yeah,
She gets
yeah.
to see the ministry. She gets to see the discipleship, 34 prayer groups in the company, and I'm blessed to lead 16 of them. So she gets
Yeah.
to see this. She says, wow, what a great
I mean, you couldn't
ministry.
ask for a better job to have till you retire. Like, it's just, no, God is so good. It's like having the best job in the world and you're still getting paid. It's just awesome. I mean, so we take it and we learn something new every time. We learn how blessed we are. We meet amazing people all across the country, and we did that in other jobs too. But this is just, we just feel so grateful that, he's not making $20 a month anymore. So that's, that's a big improvement. So,
and we've been out about 20 years now. So and I've been involved in this faith at work movement for the last 20 years. And it's we think a great place for ministry is where that's why we love the U.S. Christian Chamber also. We just think there's no better place for ministry than where we work.
So what's it like, Ginger, going to jail? I've never been to a jail before. What is it like?
It's never something I thought I'd be explaining to people, like in way of things to explain. Jail is like a county jail or a state thing. Prison is a whole different ballgame. And I didn't know anything about it. Nobody in our families had ever, well, I think they probably had some speeding tickets, but nobody had any kind of issues that they required the law and were going to prison or even the jail, I don't think. So it was a learning experience. I have to say that, it took me the first couple times going, it was overwhelming. You have to have a clear bag. You have to have rolls of quarters. You always feel like you're the criminal because you're going through all this process to get in to visit him. And then after a while, it becomes, just kind of normal. But and it's eye-opening because there's so many cases that were so sad. So many people that their families and marriages were destroyed by the cases that had brought them to prison. So many elderly parents visiting their children. That's heartbreaking. And then some people that just didn't deserve to be there, so you see all kinds of cases that again, makes you really appreciate, like, okay, we've got this compared to some people that I was very blessed to be able to move wherever Mark was at. God was good to be able to help us do that. But so many people could only come once or twice a year because maybe they lived in Miami and they had to come all the way up to South Carolina. It's not something you can do for a weekend, very easily. So it was a learning experience. I don't wish it on anybody. I really don't. We did learn a lot. It was very humbling, very humbling.
So what did you need a roll of quarters for?
Well, all the vending machines.
Because she's there for 8 hours at a time. So the vending, lunch, and
see, Mark during the week couldn't go to the vending machine, so all he wanted was the vending machine. So if we added up what we spent on vending machines, we could probably buy a house somewhere. Yeah, they didn't have very much money. We were always buying for a cameraman or somebody else. So we used a lot of quarters. And I'd go to the bank and I'm like, hey, I need $50 worth of quarters. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm going to bingo.
I'm going to bingo.
So here's the
machines,
So here's the funny irony, though, Ginger, that you're getting paid back now because the very vending machines that you're going to before, now Coca-Cola, right, is now paying you back.
That's right. I thought of that.
We were in a white-collar camp most of my sentence, so there's no fence, no razor wire. It's the honor system. As long as you don't leave the compound, you get 5 extra years and go to a penitentiary if you leave. It's an honor system. So she got to go to the church that was on our camp. We got to go to church together. I was on a Navy base almost the last 5 years of it. And Congressman Ney, Jamal Lewis, Baltimore Ravens, it was the Martha Stewarts of the men.
So it's a country club.
Yeah, kind of club fed, they call it.
Yeah, they call them that, but it's still not that great. It's not that, but it was a different clientele, I should say. But they were still some really young men, 18, 20 years old in there that should never have been.
Some sad cases.
Very sad.
Someone would camp, put a fire somewhere, that ended up being federal property. We just saw some sad cases.
Like they were just camping, didn't realize it was federal land and got prosecuted.
Wow.
Now they're a felon for the rest of their life for just something any teenager might do, or even an adult might do and not realize, so.
Wow. So this has definitely been a story of just faith, resilience, redemption, forgiveness. And so last question now, Mark, this is interesting. You brought this up and I didn't really put two and two together, but you're the whistleblower, for this large, price fixing case that affected a lot of companies, including the company you work with now. So that's kind of irony too, or this is like a story of redemption.
Yeah, I work for an officer and a vice president reporting to the chairman's department of my biggest victim, who we had to pay $400 million for price fixing of corn sweetener, and I worked for. I mean, it's only God could do. Only God could do. And they were one of the companies, Coca-Cola system, that even helped Ginger financially. So I mean, it's just it's something only God could do. We're convinced of it.
We see
Wow.
his hand in that because that's not normal. It's just not normal. That's just not the way things happen. But again, it reinforces just God's power, for Mark to be able to work for Coke and have such a supportive CEO that just, puts it right out there. Hey, Mark used to steal from us. He's now working for us. It's just get God's story out there out of his power. So we're just,
Well, that shows, I mean, that shows doing the right thing, it's not always easy.
no,
There could be hard consequences through it, but God redeems it too at the same time.
yes.
And so
Yeah.
now you two of you are living such a beautiful story now, not just in your marriage, but your career, your impact and all that, all the things that you kind of start to realize in prison when you came to the Lord to say, hey, now it's about significance.
Yes.
Now the two of you are living it out.
And
So,
she
We
gets in
pinch
trouble with them.
ourselves. We pinch ourselves every day and just I thank God for second chance. I thank God even for prison, because I think I would have lost my family without prison. It took the brokenness of prison and the attempted suicide before we went to prison, I believe, to even listen to a Chuck Colson. If he showed up when I was at ADM, I would have closed the door on him when he started talking about faith. But the fact I was broken and looking for hope, and I went to Cornell, I got a PhD in biochemistry. All I heard was there is no God. For 8 years, all I heard in the science is there is no God. And Chuck Colson went to the Ivy League called Brown, and his first discussion with me, my second week in prison, he said, Mark, I assume you heard at Cornell that a lot about there is no God. And I said, that's all I heard. And he started sharing with some of the best scientists in the world and kind of really almost breaking down everything that I was learning in college was untrue in a secular college.
wow.
And it took someone like him, I believe, that also experienced the Ivy League, also was told the same thing, also became a Christian through prison, through brokenness. And because all I heard was evolution and Darwinism and there is no God. And I've learned now some of the best scientists in the world are believers.
Yep. Because everything always eventually points to God.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Mark and Ginger, thank you so much for being on. This was such a fun interview and just a great story of, what you bring. So thank you again. Definitely get the book Against All Odds. You got to read. You'll see why Kaylee and I admire Ginger.
The hero of the story, really.
Yeah.
The FBI call me the whistleblower. I really look at Ginger's the whistleblower and I'm the informant. An informant's someone that has no choice, wear a wire or be arrested. That was me. But Ginger did the right thing for the right reason. She's the
Ginger's-
true whistleblower.
She's very discerning.
Yeah.
Yes.
So definitely the link is in the show notes. So go get the book, follow Mark and Ginger, watch the documentary too, and share this with another married business owner who needs to hear this, because it's not about success, but it's about significance, as Mark says. So thank you again, Mark and Ginger. Thank you for listening, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.